I'm just an insignificant side character in this world, where it seems like everyone around me has some kind of superpower. That's because I'm the only one who knows my childhood best friend is destined to become the great villain who destroys everything. To stop the world from falling apart, a parade of time travelers, reincarnators, and conquerors keep showing up to try and win her over. But as her childhood friend, I'm completely ignored by these so-called main characters. I'm basically invisible anyway. Even my own parents can barely remember my name, so there's no way I could ever be a threat to them. So, when I heard the new transfer student's thoughts, I just raised an eyebrow. Host, you must gain the affection of the female lead, Chloe Miller. You will be rewarded accordingly upon completion. A smirk played on his lips. I'm a master at this. Watch me wrap her around my finger in no time. His thoughts were a stark contrast to the humble self-introduction he gave. I blinked, glanced at Chloe beside me, and whispered, "Chloe, did you hear that?" Chloe propped her head on her hand, answering slowly, "Assuming I'm not deaf, I think I did." "What? Is he your long-lost brother or something?" It looked like I was the only one who could hear the new kid's thoughts. I nodded thoughtfully, then immediately pushed it all out of my mind. I might as well just slack off. I'm just a minor side character. There's nothing I can do to help. Hopefully, these travelers will try a little harder and keep the world from ending. After class, I snatched Chloe's sandwich and started eating it. Just then, Chris Evans walked over to Chloe, holding a gift. "I brought a little something for my new classmate. Please accept it." And with that came his inner voice. "System, this target is gorgeous. Kissing her would feel amazing." I nearly choked to death on the sandwich, letting out an uncontrollable cough. Chloe frowned, patting my back gently, but her words were full of disgust. "Even a pig has better table manners than you." I shot back angrily. "What's that supposed to mean? You raised pigs or something?" Chloe glanced at me. "I don't know about pigs, but I'm sure you're not as smart as one." Just then, Chris puffed out his cheeks and looked at us with a wounded expression. "Chloe, you two are being a little rude, completely ignoring me." I felt a bit awkward and was about to say, "Sorry, please continue," when I heard the thunderous rage in his mind. "Ugh, system, who is this guy? Was he even in the novel? He looks like a total clown." "Calm down, host. He's just a side character." "A clown? A side character?" I let out a cold laugh. Chloe also spoke coolly, "Excuse me, classmate." Then she took the box, which contained a beautifully wrapped, heart-shaped cookie. She smiled at Chris. "I'm so sorry. I'm allergic to cookies." Chris's voice was filled with disappointment. "Oh, is that right? Are you allergic to anything else? I can bring you something different tomorrow." Chloe added nonchalantly, "To be precise, I'm allergic to people." Even someone as dense as Chris could tell Chloe was rejecting him. He gave an awkward laugh. "Sorry to bother you." Just when I thought he'd been shot down, he got even more excited. "Damn, system, she really is an S-class heroine. So completely dismissive. But I love it. Who can blame her when she's that beautiful?" My mouth twitched. This group of travelers didn't seem very bright. During the next period, gym class, I sat under a tree reading a novel while Chloe lay with her head in my lap, listening to music with her eyes closed. I watched a group of students laughing and joking around as they sat down by the neighboring tree. "Dude, let me tell you, I heard Chloe Miller is the girl who, at the freshman orientation, announced to the entire school that she wasn't interested in dating and that everyone should leave her alone." "No way, that cold?" "I thought so too at first, but you wouldn't say that if you saw her in person. She's got that kind of look they talk about online, the kind that just completely stuns you when you're young." I looked down at the girl in my lap, this Chloe who had stunned everyone else's youth, sleeping soundly with her eyes closed. I was just about to reach out and touch her hair when she slowly opened her eyes. I calmly pulled the earbud from her left ear and pouted. "Get up, my leg's asleep." Chloe rubbed her eyes, slowly sitting up to massage my leg, complaining, "It's too bony. It's not comfortable to sleep on." I stood up and brushed the grass clippings off my clothes. "You're the stubborn one. You clearly wanted me to have more of your sandwich, but you had to be so weird about it." Chloe glanced at the novel in my hand. "Why are you reading that stuff?" I held up a copy of My Billionaire Boss. "I was just curious. I wanted to see what these main characters in novels are like." Chloe covered her mouth to hide a smile. "You're already a dummy. Don't read things that will make you dumber." After school, the sky turned gloomy, and before long, the pitter-patter of rain began to fall. Chloe and I stood under an awning, staring at each other. I asked tentatively, "What do you think the odds are of us running home without our hair getting soaked?" 100% probably, Chloe said. I was thrilled. "You have a plan? Quick, tell me." Chloe was perfectly calm. "I'll twist your head off for you, run home with it, and then reattach it. Oh, thanks a lot, I said sarcastically. She just smiled. You're welcome. Before I could retort, a guy's voice cut me off. Chloe, you don't have an umbrella? If you don't mind, you can have this one. Chloe and I turned to see Chris holding an umbrella, staring straight at her. Chloe's tone was lazy. No thanks. Chris's eyes glistened, looking a little teary. It's okay, Chloe, you should take it. It's raining so hard, you'll catch a cold. At the same time, I heard his inner monologue. Every woman has a soft spot for being called Big Sis. I pictured him calling Chloe Big Sis and couldn't help but rub the goosebumps off my arms before glancing at her curiously. Her face was completely blank. Sorry, classmate, I don't recall having a little brother. And my mom always told me not to take things from strangers. For a split second, Chris's expression turned vicious before he smoothed it over. You're so funny, Chloe. I had to admire how quickly he could change his expression. Seeing that Chloe was still as unapproachable as ever, he could only grit his teeth and say, well, in that case, I won't bother you. He turned and ran off into the rain, and I heard him screaming in his head, just you wait, I'll be back. My methods are flawless. There's definitely something wrong with this heroine. Seeing our ride home disappear, I asked, now what? Chloe dangled her phone in front of me. I called for the car. 5 minutes later, Chloe and I were settled in the back seat. I asked her with a grin, so what's it like being called Big Sis? Chloe replied mischievously, why don't you try it and find out? I shot back without hesitation, in your dreams. Chloe pouted, so stingy. I gave her a sympathetic look. You know, with that cold, unapproachable Ice Queen act, you're going to end up dying alone. Chloe smirked. Don't worry. If I die alone, I'm definitely taking you with me. I couldn't help but shake my head and sigh sincerely. You're probably what they call a silent girlfriend online. You'd be pretty charming if you just didn't talk, Chloe said coolly. And you'd probably be pretty smart if you just had a brain. I sighed from the bottom of my heart again. Not only a sharp tongue, but petty too. You're a lost cause. The driver, Mr. Henderson, looked at us in the rearview mirror with a smile. You two are still as close as ever. I was confused. Is a relationship where you couldn't care less if the other person lives or dies considered close? Meanwhile, Chris, embracing the tougher the battle, the braver the warrior mindset, woke up early to get ready, feeling very pleased with the hairstyle he'd carefully crafted that morning. The system informed him that Chloe was at the basketball court. When he got there, he scanned the area a few times but couldn't see her. He frowned and asked the system, didn't you say Chloe was at the basketball court? System prompt, she is watching the game under the tree to your left. Chris looked closely and saw Chloe in her white Westwood Academy uniform, sipping a bubble tea. Next to her was me, having just finished a game of basketball. Just then, Chris walked over, saying excitedly, what a coincidence, Chloe. You guys are here watching the game too. Then, in his head, he cursed me out with every insult he could think of. Why is this damn side character always around? What a pathetic suck-up. Looking at Chris, I was already used to him cursing me out in his head. I just secretly wished I had some popcorn to enjoy the show. Chloe asked, and you are? Chris scratched his head awkwardly. Don't joke around, Chloe. It's me, Chris. I could clearly hear his inner breakdown. Holy crap. System, this world has to be triple S difficulty, right? I've never met a woman this ruthless. The system stated bluntly, tomorrow is the final day of the mission. Please try your best, host. Otherwise, we will retract your rewards, which will significantly impact your next mission. Chris gritted his teeth, racking his brain, but couldn't come up with a single good idea. In the past, he never even had to try, the targets would just come to him. At most, he'd run into a slightly colder type, but they'd be obsessed with him within 2 days. Chloe, however, was like a block of wood. None of his tricks worked, and he was getting furious with her. Since that was the case, he had no choice but to resort to the one move he'd always disdained. Chris suddenly turned to me, the spectator, and said, excuse me, could you give us a minute? I have something I need to say to Chloe. I nodded. Sure. You two talk. When Chloe saw me leave, her expression grew even colder, and her words became blunt. Listen, classmate, I don't know what I did to offend you, but since we're here, I want to make something clear. Stop bothering me. With that, she turned to walk away. He panicked, rushing to block Chloe's path. I like you. I've liked you since the first moment I saw you. I hope you'll give me a chance to win you over. Chloe's gaze was flat. Are you finished? If so, I'm leaving. A shiver went down Chris's spine. He swallowed hard, then unbuttoned the top of his shirt. Really, just look at me. I've got a good body. I'm good looking. Just give me a chance. Chris looked up, his face filled with humiliation, at the woman in front of him who was now dry heaving. Chloe's stomach churned. She stood up without even glancing at him, and as she walked past, she dropped a single word, disgusting, before leaving. She left Chris standing there, completely stunned. Back in the classroom, I stared at the door. Why wasn't Chloe back yet? Did something happen? No, wait, I should be worried about Chris, right? Nothing could possibly happen to Chloe. Even though I thought that, my expression was grim and my heart was racing. I looked up to see Chloe walk in, her face pale. I rushed over to her. Chloe, are you okay? You look terrible. Chloe took my water bottle and rinsed out her mouth, only stopping when the bad taste was gone. Seeing the worried look on my face, she lowered her head and buried it in my shoulder, her voice tinged with grievance. I got scared. It's all your fault for leaving me alone. The grown-up Chloe rarely showed any weakness to me, so I felt a pang of guilt and stroked her hair. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. Chloe nuzzled her head against my hand before sitting up straight. You'd better not let there be a next time. I gave her a piece of candy from my bag and asked, what did Chris do to you? Nothing. I watched her for a moment, but when she still wouldn't say anything, I dropped it. When we got home from school, I took a shower, threw on a white t-shirt, and went to knock on Chloe's bedroom door. There was no answer, so I just pushed it open and saw her sitting at her computer with headphones on. I walked over and tapped on her desk. What's for dinner? Chloe took off her headphones and stretched. I'll cook. I clutched my chest dramatically, a pained expression on my face. Chloe, I really feel for you today, but you don't have to go as far as poisoning me, do you? She pulled my head into a hug and playfully pounded on my back with her small fists. Poisoning your food would be a waste of good poison. I felt a soft sensation against the back of my head, and suddenly Chloe's face and neck flushed bright red. She struggled free and ran downstairs, forgetting that she usually didn't wear a bra around the house. After all, no matter how close we were, she couldn't just press a guy's head into her chest. When I went downstairs, Chloe was already in the kitchen chopping vegetables. I went over to take a look, and she actually seemed to know what she was doing. Hey, not bad. Need any help? Chloe poured some meat into the pressure cooker and shot me a look. Go sit down. Don't get in the way. I sauntered over, plopped down on the sofa, and turned on the TV. Chloe warned me, don't eat any snacks. If you can't finish your dinner later, I'll stuff it all down your throat. I was speechless. She just meant she wanted me to finish her leftovers if she couldn't eat it all. After a while, the delicious aroma of dinner filled the air. I turned off the TV, and Chloe had already dished up the plates. It was a simple meal, 4 dishes and a soup, and every single one was my favorite. I praised her with a look of astonishment. This is amazing. A proud smile spread across Chloe's face. This young lady is just naturally gifted. I raised an eyebrow. That just proves your talent is second place and I'm number 1. The real master always makes a grand entrance at the end. I'll have to show you my skills one day. After we were full, we both lay on the sofa, watching some cheesy drama on TV. I kicked Chloe lightly. Are you really not going to tell me? What did Chris actually do to you? Chloe's voice was tinged with a strange weariness. I don't know how to explain it. I never thought someone so arrogant could have a moment of hesitation. I sat up, my eyes fixed on her, and asked worriedly, then at least tell me why you were sick. The first thing you did when you got back to class was rinse your mouth. I didn't dare let my mind wander to worse possibilities. Would those so-called travelers actually hurt her? I never should have left. Chloe's brow twitched. She sighed and looked at me. I'll tell you, but you can't laugh. I blinked and nodded. She said awkwardly. He started taking off his clothes and it scared me so much I got sick. I was shocked. What do you mean? Why were you looking at his, Chloe puffed out her cheeks. He took them off himself. I asked, confused. So why did you get sick? Chloe frowned and spat out a single word. Disgusting. I was stunned. What about when you watch porn? Chloe pinched me and said with disgust, I never watched that stuff. What's so interesting about something so gross? Then she realized what I'd said and glared at me. You've watched it. My eyes darted away. Of course not. I just heard about it from other people. A guy who doesn't respect himself is just trash, You're lucky you have me. As I was getting ready for bed, I thought back to the look on Chris's face and wanted to laugh. Most of the guys at our elite academy were arrogant and full of themselves. Their families were rich, so why would they ever humble themselves to please someone else? So those so-called travelers probably couldn't hurt Chloe. After all, she was the heroine of this world. Should I tell Chloe that they were all just conquerors on a mission? I fell asleep with that question on my mind. The next day, I was panting like a dog as I pedaled my bike with Chloe on the back. Chloe, you need to go on a diet. Chloe leaned against my back. You're the one who's too skinny. This is a good workout for you. I grumbled, Well, then stop leaning on me. I'm burning up. We bickered the whole way to school like a couple of kids. When I got to class, I scanned the room and noticed Chris wasn't there yet, which was weird because he was usually early. I pulled out my phone and saw he'd updated his Facebook status with a bunch of emo posts. My mouth twitched. Seriously, dude? You're already this emo? Beside me, Chloe glanced down at the time. It's time. I have to go to the student council meeting. I asked, is Sean still not back? Sean Davis was the student council president, but he was away for a few days representing the school at some event, so Chloe was filling in for him. After she finished with her student council duties, she left through the back door of the classroom, turned left, and opened a door with a sign that read, Baking Club. The pastry chef inside, Mr. Rossi, smiled. Chloe, you're here. What are we making today? Chloe tied on an apron. Mr. Rossi grew more fond of the girl every day. At first, he thought she was just messing around, but he never expected her to stick with it for so long. I want to learn how to make pudding today, Chloe said. Mr. Rossi smiled as he got out the equipment. There aren't many girls like you these days. So, how's it going? Have you won over that person you like yet? Chloe lowered her gaze, her eyes darkening slightly as she pursed her lips. Not yet. Mr. Rossi continued. Are young people's standards really that high these days? If you ask me, you need to learn to say some sweet things. I'm speaking from experience. Back in the day, my first love was stolen away by some smooth-talking pretty boy. So, you have to speak up about the things you do. Don't just do them in secret or he'll never know. By the time you realize what's happening, he'll have been swept away by some sweet talker. Chloe stopped what she was doing, her face darkening and her voice turning icy. He has always been mine. If he ever left with someone else, I would kill them. Mr. Rossi was taken aback and tapped his own lips. Oh, listen to me run my mouth. I didn't mean anything by it. Don't take it to heart. The rest of the lesson passed in silence. After Chloe left, the pastry chef wiped the sweat from his brow and let out a sigh of relief. Chloe walked into the classroom with the pudding and immediately spotted me sitting on my desk. Remembering what Mr. Rossi had said, her expression turned grim. But then she looked up, waved, and smiled at me. She walked over slowly and placed the dessert she'd just made on my desk. My eyes widened in happy surprise. Where'd you get pudding? She looked down and replied, the student council was giving it out. If you don't want it, I'll take it. I quickly covered it with my hands. It's on my desk, so it's mine. She smiled. My hand was on your desk a second ago too. Without thinking, I blurted out, that's because you're all mine too. Chloe snorted. Are you a bandit? Her tone was as disdainful as ever, but the look in her eyes was impossibly gentle. I'm yours, so you can only be mine. I tore open the package and took a spoonful. If I were a bandit, you're the only thing I'd steal. Then I'd make you my personal servant and have the great Chloe Miller wash my feet. I'm getting happy just thinking about it. As if she knew what I was thinking, Chloe raised an eyebrow. Thank you for your reward, my king. I leaned into the role. You're welcome, my little servant. Seeing my mock arrogance, Chloe played along. So, my king, is the pudding your humble servant brought you delicious? I finished the last bite and looked at her seriously. It's delicious. Your king is very pleased. Then I added with a smile, I think I have magic powers. Last night I told you I was craving pudding, and today you brought me some. Chloe laughed. Why not just say I'm a shooting star? I thought about it for a moment. That kind of makes sense. Chloe lowered her gaze, her voice a soft whisper in my ear. So, you can make a wish on me anytime. All I could smell was her fresh scent, and I felt my heart stop for a second before it started pounding like crazy. I hurriedly pushed Chloe away, grabbing my cup and standing up, babbling nonsense. Move, I'm thirsty. I'm going to get some water. Chloe stared at my flushed cheeks and chuckled softly. So, Ethan, you do have feelings for me, don't you? And not just as your childhood friend. I chugged a glass of water until my heart finally calmed down, silently cursing myself. That's my best friend. My buddy since we were kids. Why is my heart racing? The bell for class rang, and I went back to my seat, calmly opening my book to take notes. Chloe turned her head to look at me. Are you okay? Of course, why wouldn't I be? I was just suddenly thirsty. Chloe pointed at my desk. This is English class. I looked down at the math textbook on my desk and calmly swapped it for my English one. If Chloe knew my heart was racing because of her, she'd never let me live it down. Come on, heart, get it together. The teacher's next announcement completely snapped me out of it. Class, to help everyone build up some physical stamina, the school is organizing a pre-summer break activity. Next Monday, we'll be taking you all on a camping and hiking trip. We hope you all take this chance to enjoy the great outdoors. The reactions were mixed. Hiking? It's so tiring and you get sunburned. Ooh, I can wear the new outfit I bought the other day. Finally, we get to do something fun outside. None of the students mentioned Chris's absence. It was as if they had completely forgotten about him. At that moment, Chris was lying in bed, his face transformed. His double eyelids were gone, replaced by monolids. His nose was no longer as sharp, and his skin had become dull and sallow. The system asked, "Host, are you sure you want to continue like this?" Chris covered his face, his voice breaking. "You don't get it. I don't have my irresistible charm halo anymore. I'm so ugly. How am I supposed to win over the heroine?" The system's voice was cold. "But if you do nothing, the system will have to declare this a failure, and you will be erased." Chris asked, "Lost? Then what am I supposed to do now?" The system gave him a tip. "You can start the mission over. Everyone will forget the old Chris, and they will get to know you all over again." Chris asked hopefully, "And my face? Will it go back to normal?" "I'm sorry, host. That is your punishment for failing the mission. It cannot be reversed. Please do not be overly concerned with your appearance. Have you forgotten that you started out with this face and gradually became handsome by completing missions?" Chris was in a daze. That was right. He used to look like this. He had actually forgotten after all this time that he had gotten to where he was by completing missions step by step. "Next week, the school is having a hiking trip. We hope you can raise the heroine's affection level within 5 days. If you do, your face will also recover." It was Friday, which meant a 2-day weekend. I packed up my homework, threw on my backpack, and headed home with Chloe. On the way, I looked at my phone and said happily, "Chloe, my buddy Dylan Carter just sent an iMessage. It's his birthday today and he's inviting us out to dinner." When Chloe and I got to the private room, Dylan was there with his arm around his girlfriend, Sarah Jenkins, along with a few other people I didn't recognize. I found an empty seat and sat down, when a cheerful voice spoke up. "Ethan, it's so nice to meet you. I'm Dylan's girlfriend, Sarah." I looked up at her. She had a really sweet smile. "I've seen you around school before. I hear you're Chloe's childhood friend." Sarah looked at me, confused. "It's strange. I usually have a great memory for cute guys, but for some reason, I can never seem to remember you." I lowered my eyes and calmly took a sip of my drink. I found it strange too. For years, I've had absolutely no presence in other people's eyes. When I was a kid, no matter what I did in class, it was like the teachers couldn't even see me. Even if I met someone one day, they'd ask who I was the next. After all these years, I'd gotten used to it. Maybe it was just like that system said, I was just an insignificant side character. Chloe seemed to notice something and grabbed my hand, her warmth spreading from her palm to mine. I knew she was trying to comfort me. She spoke to the group in a flat tone. "Weren't we going to play a game?" That seemed to snap everyone out of it. Dylan held up a cup. Right. Let's play truth or dare." I gently pulled my hand away and said softly, "I'm fine." Chloe lowered her eyes, suddenly feeling incredibly thirsty. She grabbed the drink beside her and took a long gulp, which made her feel a little better. Dylan raised his hand. "Okay, game rules. For this version of truth or dare, whoever draws the king gets to make one person do something." Chloe looked at her card. She had drawn the king and I had drawn the 5. Chloe said coolly, "Number 5, please write your name on my card." I was a little stunned. "Huh? What kind of weird request is that?" "Yeah, Chloe, pick something more exciting." The others were also taken aback, but then quickly added, "Whatever our girl Chloe says goes." I took the pen and mechanically wrote my name on the card. They switched to a different deck for the next few rounds, but I was dazed and absent-minded for the rest of the game. After saying our goodbyes, Chloe and I started walking home. I paused for a second and asked tentatively, "Chloe, why did you make me write my name?" Chloe's voice was soft. "You already know, don't you?" My gaze lingered on her face for a few seconds before I slowly looked away and smiled down at the ground. The truth was, I had never gotten used to being ignored. I always did so well. My grades were always tied with Chloe's for first place, but the teachers would only ever give the award to her. I remember crying so hard that day, while a tiny Chloe stormed into the principal's office to argue with them. They'd agree to give me the award one day, and then forget all about it the next over and over again. Eventually, Chloe started giving me all of her awards and even wrote my name on all of her test papers, her little face filled with determination. After that, I never pushed for anyone to give me an award or even remember me. The May evening was a little chilly, but I felt a warmth spreading through my chest. I looked at Chloe beside me and slung my arm around her neck. "Chloe, I want bubble tea. An extra large one with pudding." Chloe refused. "Nope, you already had a cold drink today." I pouted. "Stingy." Chloe's hearing was sharp. She said in a motherly tone, "Mommy is just looking out for you." Be a good boy and listen. I warned her. Don't make me block you. Chloe gave me a smug smile. Mommy doesn't think you have the heart. I sighed. Did a dog bite you when you were a kid or something? No wonder you're such a little monster now. Chloe's lips curved into a smile. She thought I was much more lively this way. When I got home that night, I started getting my things ready for the hiking trip. It was the first year the school had organized it, so the administration was taking it very seriously. Chloe, on the other hand, just packed a few bottles of water and some snacks. We were going to hike Bear Mountain. Legend has it there's a wishing tree at the summit, and if you hang a tag with your name and the name of the person you love on it, you'll be together forever. A lot of the students were really excited about it. I stood next to Chloe and teased her. Chloe, if you get too tired later, I can carry you to the top. Chloe started walking, full of energy, and looked back at me with a smile. In that case, I'll take you up on that offer. I was trying to mess with her, but I forgot she has absolutely no sense of shame. By the time we were halfway up the mountain, some of the other students were already panting heavily, collapsing on the ground to complain. When is this ever going to end? The teacher clapped his hands. Come on, everyone, keep going. Persistence is victory. Your glory days are just ahead. I was also sweating buckets, my earlier boasting coming back to bite me. I took off my jacket and sat on a rock, gasping for breath. Looks like it's my turn to carry you. Chloe rested her arm on my shoulder, pulling a water bottle from her bag, twisting off the cap, and handing it to me. Have some water. I wonder who it was that said my stamina was no good. I chugged half the bottle and argued, I'm sorry, I apologize on behalf of my body, but my spirit is still full of fight. Chloe knelt in front of me to wipe the sweat from my forehead, shaking her head. With your level of stamina, I could take on several of you. I held my breath. You're so tough. You're the toughest. Chloe gave me a superior look and held out her hand. Of course I am. I looked up at her, confused. Chloe flicked my forehead with her finger. Didn't you say you wanted me to carry you? I waved my hands. No, it's fine. If anyone saw, they'd say I'm weaker than a girl. Chloe raised an eyebrow, then grabbed my hand and pulled me onto her back, letting out a muffled laugh. What are you thinking about? I'll just carry you for a little bit. Hearing that, a wave of shame washed over me, and I wrapped my arms tightly around her neck. Well, it won't be me who's embarrassed. I'm practically invisible anyway. Chloe teased, my sensitive little friend. If you'd please look around, you'll see we've fallen behind. It was only then that I realized there was no one behind us. Since Chloe and I had started last and we'd been delayed, the rest of the class was already far ahead. I leaned close to her ear and asked, Chloe, have you been secretly working out behind my back? How did you get so strong all of a sudden? When we were kids, you were just a little crybaby who followed me everywhere. She hadn't taken more than a few steps before she frowned, her face flushed and covered in sweat. I'd never seen her look like that before. I was so startled I immediately jumped off her back, cupping her face in my hands and asking anxiously, Chloe, what's wrong? Why is your face so red? I felt a pang of guilt. I shouldn't have let her carry me. Chloe took the water from my hand and drank it all in one go, slowly catching her breath. Let's go. The teacher will probably come looking for us soon. Chloe dusted herself off, her expression back to its usual calm. I said worriedly, if you're not feeling well, you have to tell me. I'll go get a teacher. Don't try to tough it out. A familiar voice called out. Hey, you two. The teacher sent me to get you. Everyone's waiting for you at the top. I sized up the person in front of us. The way he was looking at Chloe made me feel strangely uncomfortable. System, are you sure Chloe's memory of me is gone? Of course. Please do not question our technology, host. The familiar dialogue echoed in my ears as I squinted at the boy in front of me. Chris smiled brightly. My name is Chris. You can give me your bags. I'll carry them for you. It was him, all right, but why did he look different? Did that mean Chloe didn't remember the old Chris? I remembered the punishment the system had mentioned, so this must be the result. Chloe responded politely, thank you. Chris beamed. And what about this classmate? Want me to help you with your bag? I clutched my backpack and frowned. Thanks, but I've got it. All right then, let's head up. System, I think I still have an unused item, right? Yes, host. However, I still advise against using this item. It has side effects. I won't use it unless I absolutely have to. But to increase Chloe's affection level, this is my only choice. In that case, I wish you success, host. My heart trembled when I heard that. I grabbed Chloe's arm tightly. I felt a deep sense of unease and wanted to tell her everything, but a voice in my head screamed at me, telling me I absolutely couldn't. I shook my head hard, trying to clear the voice away. Chloe looked down at her shirt, which I was gripping tightly. She took my hand and asked, "What are you afraid of?" I forced myself to calm down and let out a breath. "Nothing. I'm just a little tired. Let's hurry up." She was clearly hiding something from me. She subtly watched my expression, as if she'd noticed I'd been acting strange ever since this Chris showed up. So, had this Chris done something to me? Chloe narrowed her eyes, her gaze dark as she stared at Chris for a moment. No matter what this man had done, she would make him pay. Chris thought happily to himself, "System, is Chloe looking at me?" "Yes, host." The system watched Chloe's affection level fluctuate wildly, from 0% one moment to -50% the next. It was terrified. Looking at its happy host, it debated whether or not to tell him. "Awesome, this is great news. It looks like my method is working after all. Hopefully I can succeed this time without using any items." The system didn't answer him. When we reached the summit, the students were re-energized, all of them busy writing their names and their crushes' names on tags. A crowd of them were chattering about what to write. I didn't really believe in that stuff, so I didn't bother getting a tag. I opened the lunchbox Chloe had made that morning. "What are you hiding from me? Aren't you hungry?" Chloe silently tucked away the tag she'd written on. "It's nothing. I'll eat in a bit. I'm going to the restroom." I felt a little uneasy. I glanced around and saw Chris talking with some other students. I nodded. "Hurry back. Should be fine." It would only take a few minutes, and from where Chris was standing, he couldn't even see us. Chloe glanced up, her eyes meeting mine. "I know. I'll be right back." She walked slowly over to the wishing tree and took out the tag she'd already filled out. The names Ethan and Chloe Miller were written side by side. She had never believed in this kind of thing. She'd always thought that if you wanted something, you just had to work hard to get it. Praying to some god was something she thought only cowards did. But now, here she was, acting like a coward, making a wish at this tree covered in people's hopes and dreams. A wish she had dreamed of her whole life, to be with Ethan forever. Chloe hung the tag and turned to leave, because her silly fool was still waiting for her. As soon as she turned, she saw Chris. Chris smiled. "Chloe, you're hanging a tag too? I thought you didn't believe in this stuff." Chloe had no intention of chatting with him. "What's it to you?" "Chloe, why are you so mean to me? I just want to be your friend." He didn't get it. This time, he was just trying to get close to her slowly, figure out her interests, and gradually raise his affection level. But Chloe's attitude was still as cold and distant as ever. Chloe narrowed her eyes. "I don't need friends. Don't talk to me." With that, she started walking back toward me. Behind her, Chris gritted his teeth. "System, use the item. Activating. Activation complete. Please prepare yourself, host." Suddenly, the wind picked up, everything went silent, and time froze. The hand I was using to bite into an apple stopped mid-motion. I was shocked. What was happening? I couldn't move. My teeth were still stuck in the apple. This must be Chris using that item. Panicked. I knew I shouldn't have let Chloe go to the restroom by herself. Who would have thought he'd use the item in just a few minutes? What was I going to do? Then, everything went black, and I passed out. I opened my eyes to a familiar room. What was going on? Wasn't I just on the mountaintop, unable to move? How did I suddenly end up back at the Miller's house? I tried to lift my hand to grab something, but I still couldn't move. That was strange. Could Chloe have found out and brought me back? Just as I had that thought, I saw my own hand move. Then I heard Chris's voice in my head. "What's going on?" "Host, the item Relive the Past forces the target to repeatedly experience a painful memory. You are now embodying the source of her pain. Therefore, host, you must prevent the painful event from occurring and help Chloe escape this traumatic memory. Upon success, the system will alter Chloe's memory, making her remember that you were the one who helped her overcome her pain." But what did this body do? I have no idea. That is something you must discover for yourself, host. This is Chloe's memory, so no one knows what her pain is. How much time do I have? You must find the source of Chloe's pain within 3 days. Otherwise, the system will declare you a failure and erase you. This is the side effect of the item. Is it that serious? I thought I'd just get ugly again like last time. Correct. This is a prohibited action, which is why the system advised you not to use it. It could inadvertently cause Chloe to turn dark. Listening to the familiar dialogue, I realized that if I wasn't mistaken, Chris was now inside my body. No, it was more like Chris had hijacked my body, and I was trapped inside, unable to move or speak, forced to watch him control everything. But if I was seeing things correctly, this body seemed to be my 8-year-old self. So, did I cause Chloe pain when I was this age? I couldn't quite remember. There was a knock on the door. "Young master, time for dinner." It was the nanny's voice. I watched her lead me out by the hand. At the top of the stairs, an 8-year-old Chloe was already leaning against the railing, waiting for me. When she saw me, she said with disgust, "You're so slow." I wanted to retort, "You could have started without me," but what came out of my mouth was, "Sorry to keep you waiting." I'd forgotten I was trapped in my own body. It was a shame. I really missed the Chloe I knew now. Chris looked at the 8-year-old Chloe. Her features were the same as when she was older, making her look just like a little princess from a fairy tale. Probably because she was so young, her expression wasn't as cold yet, and she couldn't hide her emotions. She frowned and stared at me for a long moment. "Did you take the wrong medicine or something?" Perhaps because this younger Chloe didn't have the same pride as her older self, Chris found her less intimidating. "Chloe, let's go eat." He reached out to take her hand. I rested my chin in my hand and watched. I remembered that at this age, my relationship with Chloe wasn't that great. We fought constantly. Chloe took a step back, a strange look in her eyes. "What did you just call me?" Chris blinked, looking at her in confusion. "Ethan, you're so boring." With that, Chloe walked into her bedroom and locked the door. The nanny knocked on the door. "Miss Chloe, please don't be angry. Come eat first. Don't upset yourself." A loud bang came from inside the room. I jumped. What was wrong with Chloe? Why was she throwing such a tantrum? I'd never seen her like this before. Chris grew anxious and quickly turned to the nanny. "Ma'am, what's wrong with Chloe? Did I make her angry?" The nanny knelt down. "It's all right. The young miss is just throwing a little tantrum. You just need to go coax her a bit. After all, she listens to you the most." Chris didn't know what he'd said wrong, but since the nanny had said so, and since this body was supposed to be the source of Chloe's pain, he had to figure it out. "Chloe, open the door." "I'm sorry, I was wrong. Please come out and eat." A few minutes later, Chloe opened the door and came out. She ignored me completely, walking downstairs by herself, sitting at the dining table, and starting to eat. "That's right. Didn't you say so yourself, miss? No matter how angry you are, you can't neglect your body. You should learn from the young master in this regard." The nanny stood beside Chloe, cutting her meat for her and placing a glass of water by her side. I looked at the lavish meal on the table, my stomach rumbling as I swallowed hard. I was so hungry. I had no idea when this would end. But wasn't this nanny being a little too attentive to Chloe? Back then, I was used to being ignored, but looking at it now, something seemed off. Chris ate his food, feeling completely lost. "System, can you give me a hint? I really don't know what to do. I'm not smart enough for this." I almost laughed. At least Chris was self-aware. "I'm sorry, host. That function is not available. I'm seriously going to have a breakdown." I looked up to see Chloe finishing her food, wiping her mouth, and hopping off her chair to slowly head upstairs. Seeing her leave, Chris quickly shoveled a few more bites into his mouth and followed her. I glanced back at the nanny. She was slowly clearing the table, humming an unfamiliar tune, and looking very happy. The shadows from the overhead lights played across her face. It was a scene I'd witnessed countless times, but for some reason, it sent a shiver down my spine. Upstairs, Chris stood in front of Chloe and said, "Chloe, please don't be mad at me anymore. I'll be good to you from now on, I promise. I'll never do anything to make you upset." Chris figured the boy whose body he was in must have done something terrible to Chloe for her to be in pain for so many years. In any case, he had to make it clear to this younger Chloe that he wouldn't hurt her. Chloe's face was blank, but seeing me like this, she suddenly smiled, a dimple appearing on her left cheek that looked incredibly sweet. "All right, then how about you call me Big Sis Chloe from now on?" Chris's heart pounded as he looked at the smiling Chloe, thinking dazedly that this was the first time she had ever smiled at him. He never knew she had dimples. I stared at the 8-year-old Chloe, wishing I could jump out of my own body, give her a flying kick, and tell her to dream on before pinning her to the ground and making her call me Big Bro. But unfortunately, I was trapped, forced to watch as Chris blushed and called her Big Sis Chloe. I was so furious. If I've committed a crime, please let the law punish me. Not this. I closed my eyes, unable to bear the sight of the smug look on Chloe's face. There wasn't a trace of a smile on Chloe's face. Her eyes were dark, and for a moment, her young face seemed to merge with her older self. Chris felt a daze wash over him as goosebumps broke out on his arms. She was the one who had told him to call her that, but her expression was terrifying. He shivered. Chloe looked at me and suddenly smiled. "Then let's get along well from now on." Chris finally breathed a sigh of relief, nodding and wiping the cold sweat from his forehead. He told himself not to worry. It was just a memory. Chloe wouldn't actually do anything. That night, in my room, Chris was already fast asleep in bed, but I was wide awake. If I remembered correctly, it was about to happen. Click. The sound of my door unlocking, followed by the flick of a light switch. I looked at the nanny standing beside my bed. It turned out that when I was 8, Chloe and I had been sold to human traffickers by our nanny. I never saw her again after that. It wasn't because she was a thief, as I'd been told, but because she'd been sent to prison for human trafficking. Soon, the nanny was carrying both me and Chloe into a car. The driver was a big, bearded man with a look of unconcealed glee on his face. We're hitting the jackpot this time. That woman from the Miller family is going to be furious. The nanny's voice was no longer gentle, but cold and sharp. Hurry up and go. It'll be bad if they wake up. The bearded man said, "What are you afraid of? Didn't you give them sleeping pills? But I thought we agreed to just grab the Miller's girl. Why's there an extra boy?" The nanny sneered. "This boy is good looking. He should fetch a good price too. Who's going to complain about more money?" The bearded man roared with laughter. A woman's heart is truly the most venomous. If the Millers knew they'd let a wolf into their home, they'd regret it for the rest of their lives. My face grew pale as I watched all of this unfold. I glanced at Chloe beside me, who was sleeping soundly with her eyes closed. I didn't know what to do. Logically, this was just Chloe's memory, maybe just an illusion or a dream, but I didn't want her to have to relive this pain. They locked Chloe and me in a dark, filthy room. As the sky began to lighten, Chris rubbed his eyes. He looked around the dilapidated room in shock. "Damn, where are we? It stinks." He quickly covered his nose. System, what's going on? Why did the scene change while I was asleep? I don't know. Something important must be about to happen. You should check on Chloe first. Chris finally snapped out of it. Enduring the foul smell, he looked around and found Chloe leaning against the wall. He rushed over to help her, but she moved away. He had no choice but to squat down and ask, "Are you okay? What's going on? How did we get here?" I watched Chloe through his eyes. A thin sheen of sweat was forming on her forehead. I knew her germophobia was kicking in. She had always been so clean, so being thrown into a room filled with garbage and a nauseating stench, it was a miracle she hadn't fainted already. Chloe stood up, feeling sick to her stomach. The door opened and a small, shifty-eyed man walked in, saying fiercely, "What's all the noise? Watch it, or I'll teach you a lesson." Chloe said calmly, "It smells in here. I want to be moved to a different room." The small man sneered, "You're not the precious Miss Miller anymore. You'd better drop that attitude, or you'll be in for a world of hurt. You don't want anything to happen to us, do you?" Chloe said, "If you don't move me to another room and I die, you won't get anything, will you?" She held a shard of glass to her own throat, her brow furrowed with a cold intensity, her sharp gaze like a blade. The small man was immediately terrified. "Don't do anything crazy. I'll move you. It's just another room, no problem." He was a grown man, but he was completely intimidated by a little girl's presence. As I watched, I realized that things were starting to go in Chloe's favor. The small man moved them to another room. It was still run down, but at least it didn't smell as bad. The man looked annoyed. "All right, I moved you. Now give me the glass." Chloe tossed the shard of glass at his feet and said coolly, "You can get lost now." The man's face flushed with anger, his brows shooting up, but he couldn't hit her. If he damaged the goods, he wouldn't get a good price. So he just muttered a few curses. "Act tough now. You'll get what's coming to you later." Then he locked the door and left. Chris was frantic. "Big sis Chloe, what are we going to do?" My eye twitched when I heard him say, "Big sis Chloe." Even though I wasn't the one saying it, it was still my voice, and it made me feel a little sick. Chris asked the system, "Can you get an item to save us?" "Please stop dreaming, host. You should be thinking about how this body caused Chloe's suffering. It's already obvious, isn't it? This body must have done something to hurt Chloe at this time, like betraying her or running away. That's how it always is in novels, to give the heroine a tragic childhood. Then please do your best to change her, host." What kind of cheesy novels had Chris been reading? But my mind wasn't on him. I'd realized that something was wrong ever since Chloe had opened the door. This wasn't how I remembered it. Chloe ignored him and lay down on the bed. Chris figured she must be tired, so he didn't say anything else. After a while, the door opened, and I recognized the man from the car. He swaggered over, followed by the smaller man. He grabbed Chloe by the collar, a grin revealing his yellowed teeth. "Little girl, I hear you've been acting tough. Let me tell you, you're not the precious Miss Miller anymore. I suggest you behave, unless you want me to make a little less money on this deal." The smaller man tossed a bag on the floor and followed him out. Chris rushed over. "Are you okay, big sis Chloe? Don't worry, we'll definitely get out of here." Chloe gave a sarcastic smile. "And how are you going to do that?" Chris was stunned. He didn't know. He had no plan. But he was sure of one thing, Chloe could definitely get them out. Big sis Chloe, I'm sorry, I don't know, but you're so smart, you'll definitely get us out of here, right? Chloe lowered her eyes, her expression unreadable. I watched her memory unfold, but something was wrong. Chloe was acting very strange. Later that night, when everything outside had gone quiet, Chloe slowly got up and pulled away the cabinet against the wall. Chris didn't know what she was doing, but he helped her push it aside, whispering, "Big sis Chloe, what's with the cabinet?" Chloe didn't explain, but I knew there was a large hole behind it. I was the one who had found it when I was 8. Chris gasped when he saw the hole. "Big sis Chloe, you're amazing. I knew you had a plan," Chloe said flatly. "You go first." Chris's expression was firm. "Big sis Chloe, what are you talking about? How could I go first? We're leaving together." Here it comes, I thought. This must be where Chloe tells this body to go first, and then the body betrays her, causing her to distrust people forever. Based on all the novels he'd read, that had to be it. My mouth twitched. What was this, some dramatic life or death battle for love scene? Chloe roared at him. "I said go, so just go." I blinked, dazed. This scene felt so familiar, like I was back in that moment. My 8-year-old self had found the hole and run out with Chloe on my back. But I was too small and didn't have enough stamina. The mountain path was treacherous, and I fell countless times, my back burning with pain. Chloe spoke weakly from my back. "You should go on without me. Put me down. I already sent a message to my mother. Someone should be here soon." I kept carrying her, walking slowly and enduring the pain. If she had already messaged Mrs. Miller, then I definitely couldn't leave. Chloe said irritably, "I didn't send anything. I was lying. If I could have, I would have done it already. I'm useless. Just leave me and go. At this rate, I might as well be dead." I managed a weak smile. "I knew you were lying." Chloe wrapped her arms tightly around my neck and yelled, "I told you to go, so just go." I struggled to smile. "But you're holding on so tight." I felt something wet on my neck and wiped it away, confused. Was it raining? In that moment, I saw her again, the Chloe who told me to leave her but held on with all her might. Chris also shouted, "I'm not leaving, big sis Chloe. I won't abandon you." Suddenly, a sinister smile touched Chloe's lips. A terrifying chill filled the air, and her voice, like poisoned honey, whispered, "Then you can stay here forever." I watched as everything around us began to disappear, bit by bit. Chloe slowly transformed from her 8-year-old self into the person she was now. The system in Chris's head blared an alarm. "Warning, host has failed. Chloe has turned dark. Host's life is in danger." Chris panicked. "What do I do? Help me, system. I don't want to die." "I'm sorry, I cannot help you. Please take care of yourself, host." Chris started crying in fear. "Don't come any closer. I'm scared." I looked at Chloe. Her eyes were now a dark, blood red, her sharp features radiating a chilling cold, and a sick, dark light swirled in their depths. I shook my head. This wasn't Chloe. Chloe wasn't like this. Sure, she could be annoying sometimes, but she was also gentle, and she was only awkward because she was shy. This version of her was a stranger, and she scared me. Chloe grabbed the retreating Chris by the throat, her eyes bloodshot and filled with murderous intent. "What did you do to him?" Chris couldn't breathe, a searing pain shooting through his neck. He clawed at her hand, gasping, "What are you talking about? I don't understand." Chloe's fingers tightened, her expression crazed. "Come out. Give him back to me." I felt tears welling in my eyes. Did she know? Chris's eyes were rolling back in his head. He couldn't even speak. I managed to move my fingers, a wave of joy washing over me. I slowly reached up and touched her face, smiling as I whispered the nickname only I knew. "Silly girl." Chloe's hands trembled as she let go of my throat, pulling me into a tight, shaking hug. Feeling the wetness on my neck, I smiled. "Crying again, little kid?" I slowly closed my eyes. Crunch. I took a bite of the apple, rubbing my jaw. Felt a little sore. I glanced over at the panicked Chris. So that feeling of wrongness I'd had was because she'd known all along it wasn't me. Still, what was taking Chloe so long in the restroom? Chloe stared at the tree, covered in colorful tags. She felt like she had just woken up from a terrible dream, one so real it had terrified her. At that thought, she broke into a sprint, running back towards me. She wrapped her arms around me, her hands trembling. I nearly choked on my apple, patted her back. "What are you doing? Chloe, you didn't wash your hands in the restroom and now you're wiping them on me, are you?" Chloe held me, stroking my back. She knew there was a scar there, one I had gotten for her. I looked down at my clothes, pretending I didn't know what had just happened. "Why are you being so weird? You just went to the restroom." Chloe flicked my forehead. I just had a dream you called me Big Sis Chloe. It scared me to death. I rubbed my forehead. You mean it would scare me to death? If you want me to call you sis, you'll have to wait for the next life. Chloe raised an eyebrow, setting a trap. Call me what? Without thinking, I said, sis. Chloe covered her mouth to hide a snicker. I know, my good little brother. Took me a second to realize what had happened. You tricked me. I packed up my bag and zipped it, and the two of us headed down the mountain, bickering and laughing the whole way. At the base of the mountain, the teacher was already doing a head count. As Chloe and I joined the group, I noticed Chris staring at her with a look of pure terror. He rubbed his neck. Just looking at Chloe made his neck ache. Host, as you know, you have failed this mission. You only have a few hours left to live. I know. I was suddenly filled with a strange sense of melancholy. He had gone from being an ordinary boy to someone everyone loved, but in the process, he had lost himself. Summer break arrived in the blink of an eye. After Chris disappeared, I never heard any system voices again. Until Chloe's birthday. I sat on the sofa, eating an ice cream bar I'd just stolen from her, waiting for our friends to arrive. Before long, Sean Davis, Sarah Jenkins, and Dylan Carter were at the door. I had just opened the door when Sean took one look at me and collapsed. I jumped, quickly bending down to help him up. You mean I've been reincarnated? That's right, host. My hands froze. Not again. System, please tell me what to do. Host, our system has detected that the reason for your reincarnation is a person named Chloe Miller. You have 10 days to raise her affection level to 20%. Otherwise, you will return to your previous life and continue working as a waiter. Sean opened his eyes and looked around. In his past life, when he was 18, his family had been very poor, so everyone looked down on him and some even bullied him. Only Chloe had ever stood up for him, chasing away the people who picked on him. They had slowly gotten to know each other through the student council, and he had eventually learned some of Chloe's secrets. He knew she was in love with her practically invisible childhood friend, and had been for years. This time, his girlfriend, Sarah, had dragged him here to celebrate Chloe's birthday. I was confused. This one seemed different. Not only was the time limit longer, but the required affection level was lower too. I glanced at Chloe. She must be so difficult that even the system had to lower the difficulty. After they came in, I went to the freezer to get some ice cream bars to help them cool off. Chloe pouted. Why don't I get one? I said irritably, isn't it that time of the month for you? I bet you just want to get cramps so you can find a reason to blame me. Chloe glared at me and kicked my shin. You're the one who's coming soon. See? What did I tell you? You're supposed to be a girl, but with an attitude like that, not even a dog would date you. It's my birthday today, Chloe reminded me. My expression froze. My apologies, Your Highness. I was wrong. Please have mercy. This all started with her birthday present. That morning, while Chloe and I were having breakfast, a package arrived. Inside was a set of car keys and a pair of high heels. I took a sip of my oatmeal and asked, who's it from? Who else? My mother and brother. Suddenly, Chloe put down her fork and asked, what about your gift? You did get me something, right? It's upstairs. You want to see it now? It's still daytime, and we haven't even had cake yet. Chloe pulled me upstairs. Yes, right now. I took a small box from my drawer and handed it to her. It was tied with a silk ribbon. Chloe untied the bow, tore off the wrapping paper, and opened the box. Inside was a small note that read, Wish coupon. When she didn't react, I explained, a little embarrassed, I didn't know what to get you. I thought about it so hard my hair almost fell out, and then I came up with this. It's only valid on your birthday. Any wish you make today, I'll grant it. Chloe smiled. Barely acceptable. I wish that for today, you can't refuse anything I ask. She felt her self-control slipping. I breathed a sigh of relief as she accepted my gift. For the rest of the day, I deeply regretted my decision. Whenever I said something she didn't like, she would just say, it's my birthday, and have me completely wrapped around her finger. The August heat squashed any ideas of going out, so we all just stayed inside in the air conditioning, playing games and cards. After a few rounds, I suddenly got a craving for the pudding from the shop near school, so we all agreed that whoever lost the next round had to go buy it. A little while later, Dylan came back. Damn, it's so hot out there. Why did I have to be the one to lose? I'm going to get my revenge, I swear. I took one of the puddings, opened it, and started eating happily. Dylan handed the other one to Sean. Sean shifted slightly, then looked at Chloe. Chloe, do you want this? You can have it, I haven't opened it. Chloe kicked me under the table, her eyes not on Sean as she said, no thanks, I'll just have some of Ethan's. I sighed, understanding what she wanted. I started feeding her spoonful by spoonful, muttering, I thought you didn't even like this stuff. Are you doing this on purpose? I worked so hard to win this, and now half of it is going into your stomach. Chloe opened her mouth. The dessert she usually found too sweet didn't taste so bad now. Please watch your language. Of course, Miss Miller. What else would you like? Allow me to feed you. I forced a stiff smile. Eat up. Maybe you'll burst. Not right now. You may be dismissed. Chloe acted as if she couldn't see the furious look on my face, even giving me a provocative little eyebrow raise. Dylan yawned. This is so boring. He turned to Chloe. Chloe, is this really how you're spending your glorious 18th birthday? This is so lame. I like lame, Chloe retorted. Then she muttered under her breath. I was actually hoping you guys wouldn't interrupt my alone time with Ethan today. Let's play a game, Dylan suggested. I have a deck of cards with punishments written on them, and I found this glass Coke bottle. We can use it to spin. Whoever it points to has to do the punishment. What do you think? Boring, Chloe replied lazily. But when everyone else agreed, she couldn't really refuse. She sighed. Give it to me. I'll spin. The bottle spun with a whirring sound before finally stopping in front of Sarah. Sarah grinned, glanced at Chloe, then said to Dylan, You draw for me. All right. Let me pick the most evil one for you, Dylan said, but before he could finish, he looked at the card in his hand in surprise. Please kiss the boy next to you. Holy crap, Sarah, I love this card. This is exciting. Sarah frantically made eye contact with Chloe, then glanced at me as if to say, Go for it, girl. I've set you up perfectly. Chloe glanced at me. Sure enough, my eyes were wide, and I was staring without blinking, waiting for the kiss. Chloe irritably turned my face toward her. Ethan, are you really that curious? With my face squished by Chloe's hands, I mumbled, Let go of me. Then I heard the sound of a kiss. I angrily pushed her hand away, rubbing my cheeks, and leaned in close. That's not fair, Chloe. You got to watch, but you wouldn't let me. I met Chloe's gaze and saw her cheeks flush a deep red. She swallowed hard. I didn't watch. Then she covered her burning face and ran to the bathroom. I took a sip of water. What was that about? Did she find me that appetizing or something? Sarah watched Chloe flee and laughed. I'm going to use the restroom too. Sean watched all of this, knowing I was her childhood friend. He moved closer to me. You and Chloe have such a great relationship. It's really something to be envious of. I nodded. It's all right. Sean frowned, a troubled look on his face. You know, when I was a kid, I always wanted an older sister type of childhood friend, someone who would be nice to me and protect me when I was in trouble. But I wasn't as lucky as you. I said seriously, younger sister. Then I subtly scooted away on the sofa. Why did this guy seem so weird after getting his system? I sighed internally. If we can't make conversation, let's just not. This is awkward for both of us. I had never missed Chloe so much. Chloe splashed her face with water, panting as she stared at her reflection in the mirror, her heart about to beat out of her chest. Her eyes were filled with desire, and her ears were bright red. She went out onto the balcony to get some fresh air and calm her racing heart. Sarah came out of the restroom and followed her. Seriously, are you ever going to just tell him? Chloe narrowed her eyes. I'm scared. What if Ethan doesn't like me back? Then our relationship will never be the same. Sarah smiled and waved her hand dismissively. The great Chloe Miller, who doesn't care about anything, is being a total coward over this. By the way, didn't I tell you to write him a love letter? Did you do it? Chloe paused. I wrote it, but I don't think he saw it. Chloe, you're not the type to hold back. If you wait too long, you won't just lose him. What are you guys talking about? I think I heard something about a beloved. I popped up beside them. Sarah covered her mouth and laughed. You heard us, Ethan. Chloe and I were just talking about our crushes. What? Chloe, you have a crush? Who is it? Do I know him? What does he look like? Chloe patted my head. Whether I have one or not, wouldn't you know best? I nodded. True. With a personality like yours, how could you ever find a boyfriend? Chloe grabbed my arm. Then I guess I'll just have to plague you. Sean watched Chloe, speechless. He couldn't help but feel a little sorry for her. At this rate, it would take her forever to win Ethan over. After we finished the cake, it was time for everyone to head home. Before he left, Sean grabbed my hand, acting like we were old friends. Ethan, I think you're a really great guy. We should keep in touch. A shiver went down my spine. Shouldn't he be trying to win over Chloe? Why was he so focused on me? Chloe asked, a strange look on her face. When did you two get so close? Who knows? That guy's a little weird. It's probably best to stay away from him. I couldn't figure out what he was thinking. For once, I was grateful for my lack of presence. Sean would probably forget all about me by tomorrow. Chloe smiled at me. That's great. It means people are starting to notice you more. I scratched my head. I just didn't know how to say no. You know I'm not good at turning people down. Chloe posed a question. Then why do you always refuse me? I looked at her with a wounded expression. That's because I know you so well. Besides, when have I ever refused you? I've been your slave all day, and I didn't even get to see the kiss. Chloe said nonchalantly. You wanted to see it that badly? I felt a little embarrassed. It's just that I've heard people say kissing feels like an electric shock, and I wanted to see their reactions. Chloe laughed softly. You can't tell just by watching. Her laugh made my face flush. Of course I know that. Can't I just look? Then let's try it. Before I could even process what she'd said, Chloe had wrapped her arms around my waist and pulled me close. I instinctively put my arms around her neck. I tried to pull away, but Chloe held me fast, her eyes locked on mine. Aren't you curious? Try it with me and you'll find out. Are you crazy? Chloe, we're best friends. This isn't right. The atmosphere was incredibly tense. My mind was a complete mess, and I couldn't even remember what I'd said to get us into this situation. Chloe was like a beautiful demon, whispering in my ear, It's my birthday. You said it yourself, whatever I want, you have to help me get. Are we just friends? You'll know after one kiss. Besides, I'm beautiful, and it's both of our first kisses, so it's not like you're losing out. And I'm curious too, so you'd be satisfying my curiosity. I looked at Chloe. She was right, she was beautiful. I don't know if I was bewitched by her or if I just wanted to grant her wish, but I gave her a gentle smile and said, I just had some candy. I guess I can reluctantly give it a try. I slowly closed my eyes and leaned in. The first thing I felt was how soft her lips were. Were all girls' lips this soft? It was just a light touch, and I pulled away in less than a second. I licked my lips, my hand over my heart. So novels were all lies. It was nice, but I didn't feel any kind of electric shock. Chloe's voice was hoarse as she asked patiently, How did it feel? I managed to get out a single word. Soft. Chloe's eyes darkened. And the electric shock? I shook my head. Maybe we didn't kiss long enough. Let me try this time. What? I started to say, but she cut me off, her lips pressing against mine. It was completely different from my kiss. She licked my lips gently before her tongue slipped into my mouth, tangling with mine as she kissed me softly. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. Chloe thought vaguely, so Ethan had milk-flavored candy. After what felt like an eternity, Chloe reluctantly pulled away, cupping my face in her hands. And this time, my brain had completely shut down. I panted, wiping a bit of drool from my lip, and said, flustered and angry, I didn't feel anything. Where did she learn to kiss like that? Chloe laughed softly, a smile playing on her lips. What should we do? Because I definitely felt something. Seeing her like that, my heart raced, and I fled in a panic. I lay on my bed with my eyes closed, taking deep breaths and clutching my chest, trying to calm my racing heart. All I could see in my mind was what had just happened. How could I have kissed Chloe? It was all her fault, that wicked woman, for seducing me. I kept reminding myself, it's just Chloe. She's my best friend. After what felt like hours of trying to convince myself, I finally fell asleep. The next morning, when I saw Chloe, I subconsciously touched my lips. What? Why are you staring at me so early in the morning? I rubbed the back of my neck. Nothing. The atmosphere was suddenly quiet. Usually, Chloe would be chattering away during meals. To break the awkward silence, I spoke first. How did you sleep last night? Chloe put down her cup and stared at me. Not well. Do you want to know why? I shifted uncomfortably in my seat and stammered, Not really. Have you ever thought about dating? I looked up, confused by the sudden change of topic. I have. I think every red-blooded teenager has. But as I got into my teens, the idea of dating just kind of faded. I don't want a girlfriend who asks me my name every day, and I have to spend half my time explaining who I am, just repeating that over and over. Chloe rested her chin on her hand. So what are your standards for a girlfriend? I counted on my fingers. Well, first, she has to be nice to me. Then, she has to do whatever I say. She has to be beautiful, kind, and most importantly, she has to remember me. I asked curiously, what about you? What are your standards for a boyfriend? Chloe glanced up at me. Someone a little dumb. Dumb people have dumb luck. I nodded. True. Then I sighed. So that would be pretty awkward for a smart guy like me. Huh? Immediately, Chloe picked up her phone and sent an iMessage to Sarah. Let's go out for drinks tonight. I'm in a bad mood. She sent the address and put down her phone. I'm taking you to a bar tonight, I said in surprise. Really? I've never been. I'll go change. Chloe pouted as she watched me go upstairs. Jerk. Kisses me and then forgets all about it. Can't he tell I'm upset? And I still have to coax him and take him out. I changed into a random outfit and looked at myself in the mirror, feeling like something was missing. I suddenly remembered the birthday gift Chloe had given me last year, a bottle of men's cologne. She'd said she'd picked it out specifically so people would notice me more. A moment later, Chloe pushed open my door. "Are you ready yet? What's taking you so long?" She watched me spraying myself with cologne, and then she suddenly remembered something. She stood in the doorway, blushing, and asked, "Did you read the letter in the cologne box?" She touched her ear and fiddled with the bow on her collar to hide her nervousness. I replied nonchalantly, "The letter? Yeah, I read it. What about it?" Chloe's hand tightened on the bow, her hair falling to cover her eyes. "You don't have anything to say to me? About what?" "It was just one of those generic letters they put in online orders. You want me to give you a review?" Chloe's vision blurred, a sour feeling rising in her nose. Her sadness today was as deep as her happiness last night had been high. It was true. Ethan didn't like her at all. He had only ever seen her as a little sister. I was startled to see Chloe's eyes were red. "What's wrong? Are you crying?" Chloe took a deep breath, her hands clenched into tight fists. Two voices were arguing in her head. One said, "Just pounce on him and tell him you like him. Tell him you don't want to be his stupid little sister." The other said, "Don't do it. Do you want to scare him away? You won't even be able to be friends anymore." The little voices in her head wouldn't stop arguing. Chloe's clenched fists slowly relaxed. I looked at her nervously. "Chloe, are you okay? Why is your nose bleeding all of a sudden?" Chloe reached up and touched her nose. The metallic scent of blood brought her back to her senses. "I'm fine." She buried her head in her knees and muttered, "Chloe, are you an idiot? You can't even admit you like someone." After messing around for a while, we finally left. When we got to the bar, Sean and Sarah were already there. Sarah ordered 2 drinks, then brought one over to Chloe. "Here, have a drink." Chloe raised an eyebrow. "You think I'm scared?" Then she leaned in and whispered something in my ear. Sarah sighed. She had to get permission just to have a drink. It was unbelievable. She couldn't imagine what they'd be like if they ever got married. I looked over at Sean, who seemed restless. Ever since his reincarnation, he'd been worried it was all a dream, terrified he'd wake up and be back to his old life as a waiter. He planned to break up with Sarah tonight. He had to get on Ethan's good side as soon as possible, so he wouldn't have to rely on Sarah to get close to Chloe. I listened to his thoughts, confused. The more I heard, the more wrong it sounded. Sean clapped me on the shoulder. "Bro, let me tell you something, and don't get mad. Don't you think Chloe is way too mean to guys?" I realized he had completely forgotten who I was. I played along. "What do you mean?" Sean clenched his fists, his voice filled with indignation, but a flash of contempt crossed his eyes. "Look at all the guys at school who like her, and she just ignores them. If it weren't for her face, who would even like her?" The smile vanished from my face, replaced by a serious expression. "Are you serious? She didn't force anyone to like her, and she made it clear at the beginning of the school year that she wasn't interested. You said it yourself, you guys only like her for her looks. Why shouldn't she be able to refuse you? You don't know Chloe at all, so what right do you have to talk about her like that?" Sean was surprised by my strong reaction. "Hey, don't get mad. I just heard it from other people. What's going on? Everything was fine a second ago. Does he like Chloe too? Him? With his plain face? Is he even worthy? I was doing you a favor by telling you this, and now you're lecturing me." I listened to his thoughts and looked at him with contempt. "If you ask me, you're even worse than they are." Sean forced a stiff smile. "What are you talking about? I don't even like Chloe." Just as he thought. All these rich people thought they were better than everyone else. Only Chloe was different. I stood up, not wanting to be there anymore. "You know exactly what I'm talking about." Sean clenched his fists. "System, how much time do I have left?" 7 days, host. You have made no progress. I suggest you speed up your efforts. You don't want to go back to your old life, do you, host? I'll get it done. I shook my head. Sean seemed a little obsessed, and this so-called system was also a bit off. On the other side of the room, Sarah handed Chloe a drink. "What's with you today? You look so frustrated." Chloe thought about the emotional roller coaster of the past 2 days, downed her drink in one gulp, and said a single word. "Annoyed." Was Ethan really that dense? Or was he just pretending not to understand? I went and sat down next to Chloe. Even though she was clearly in a bad mood herself, she still noticed that I was upset. She turned my face toward her and frowned. "Who pissed you off?" I pulled away from her hand. "It's nothing." Sarah, who was a few drinks in and a little flushed, pointed at Chloe and teased, "Chloe, why are you treating him like a baby? Who would dare bully our precious Ethan?" Chloe turned and grabbed Sarah's finger, bending it back. "Make yourself clear." Who's precious Ethan? Ow, ow. Yours. He's yours. Is that what you want to hear? I couldn't help but laugh at the look on Sarah's face. Chloe saw me laughing and turned back to me. So, are you happy now? I shook my head. I wasn't mad in the first place, but I was still bothered by what Sean had said, especially the way he'd badmouthed Chloe. I looked curiously at the blue drink in front of her. What are you guys drinking? Chloe held it up for me to see. A cocktail. I took a small sip from her glass and immediately wrinkled my nose. It wasn't for me. Chloe looked at the faint lip print on the rim of the glass, then subtly turned it so her lips were in the same spot, and finished the drink in one gulp. She licked her lips. It's my cup of tea. Sarah watched her smooth move, her eyebrow twitching. She was at a loss for words. It was a smooth move, but it was wasted on him. A moment ago, she'd looked so frustrated, but now she was looking at Ethan like a dog with a bone. We all just drank for a while, and by the time we got home, it was almost midnight. I punched in the code and opened the door. Suddenly, Chloe grabbed my wrist and pulled me stumbling over to the sofa. I looked up at her, exasperated. Chloe, you're not going to start acting crazy drunk now, are you? Don't be unreasonable. It's late. Let's just get ready for bed. A single drop of water landed on my wrist. My eyes widened, and the words died in my throat. Chloe choked out, "You were mean to me." In that moment, she had none of her usual arrogant swagger. I wiped the tears from her face and coaxed her in a gentle voice. "How was I mean to you? Look, you're exhausted, and it's late. It's time to get some rest, right?" Chloe nuzzled her head against my hand, then buried her face in my shoulder and mumbled, "Then you have to comfort me." Her chest was pressed so tightly against mine that I felt like our heartbeats were in sync. I tried to push her away slightly, but as soon as I moved, she held me even tighter. I sighed and stroked her hair. "Good girl, Chloe. Don't be mad anymore." Chloe just hummed in response. I don't know how long I comforted her, but eventually I heard her soft, even breathing, and let her go with a wry smile. I never would have guessed that when Chloe got drunk, she was so emotionally fragile. It reminded me of when we were kids. After we were almost sold and I got hurt escaping, she was in the hospital for a long time. After she got out, she became incredibly clingy. Sometimes I'd fall asleep in my own room and wake up the next morning to find her sleeping beside me. I carried her bridal style to her bed. Worried she might roll off in her drunken state, I placed a bunch of pillows on the floor around her bed before yawning and heading upstairs to my own room. I woke up the next day at noon, yawning as I slowly made my way downstairs. I didn't see Chloe, so I went back upstairs and knocked on her door. When there was no answer after a few knocks, I pushed the door open and went inside. "Chloe, are you okay?" Poked her. Chloe frowned, her eyes still closed, and her voice was hoarse. "My head hurts." I touched her forehead. It was a little warm. I used a forehead thermometer on her. 99.3 degrees Fahrenheit. A low-grade fever. I was a little worried, so I blurted out, "Chloe, take off your shirt. I'll help you cool down." Chloe's face flushed as she looked at me and slowly nodded. "I'll go get a towel." When I came back with a basin of water and a towel, Chloe had obediently taken off her shirt. I wrung out the towel and began to gently wipe her down. I slowly paused, surprised to see the faint outline of abs on her slender frame. I realized where I was staring and my face instantly flushed. I couldn't bring myself to look at her anymore. I shoved the damp towel into her hand. "You can do the rest yourself." Chloe frowned, her voice still hoarse. "Ethan, you don't care about me at all." I opened my mouth to speak, my back still to her. "Of course I care about you, but boys and girls are different." Chloe rolled over and stared at my back. "You only seem to remember that now." I was confused. "Remember what? Are you done?" "I'm turning over now." I touched her cheek. "Feeling any better? Be a good girl and take your medicine." Chloe stared at me without blinking. "I don't want to take medicine." I didn't even realize how fond my own voice sounded. "I know about your weird habits. I'll help you, okay?" I took out a fever reducer, gently asked her to open her mouth, and then handed her a glass of water. Chloe lowered her eyes and obediently opened her mouth, swallowing the pill. I watched her throat move and gently touched it. "Did it go down?" Chloe opened her mouth to show me. Sure enough, the pill was still sitting on her tongue. I held the cup to her lips. "It's okay. Here, take another sip." Chloe took a big gulp and opened her mouth again. This time, the pill was gone. "Great job," I praised, handing her a piece of candy. "Here's your reward." Chloe sucked on the candy, her eyes never leaving my face. I started to tease her. If the kids at school knew that their usual ice queen couldn't even swallow a pill when she's sick, I wonder what they'd think. Chloe pouted and muttered, "I don't care." She didn't care what anyone else thought. The only person whose opinion she cared about was mine. Alright, you get some sleep. I'll wake you up later for something to eat. I went downstairs to make some breakfast. Knowing she wasn't feeling well, I decided to make her some oatmeal. I measured out the oats and water, started the rice cooker, and then went back upstairs to check on her. She was sleeping soundly, so I quietly slipped out and closed the door. I sat on the sofa and checked the group iMessage. Everyone come over to my place for a horror movie marathon. I bought a ton of snacks. I typed back, Chloe has a cold, so we can't make it. To my surprise, they all got excited. Chloe has a cold? No way, I have to come see. I've never seen her sick before. My mouth twitched as I replied, I think you guys just want to come for the drama. Just then, the rice cooker beeped. I put some oatmeal in a bowl and brought it up to Chloe. She was still asleep. I put the bowl down and gently shook her. Chloe, wake up and eat something before you go back to sleep. Chloe opened her eyes, still hazy with sleep. When she saw me, she slowly sat up. I held the bowl and asked, does your head still hurt? Not anymore, she said, her voice still weary. I held the bowl out to her. Here, eat something to fill your stomach. Chloe opened her mouth. You feed me. I opened my own mouth to protest, but before I could say anything, there was a noise behind me. Dylan and Sarah were staring at us with shocked expressions. I had no idea how long they'd been watching, but it seemed Sean hadn't come with them. I said irritably, come on in. What are you just standing there for? Dylan snapped out of it, quickly picking up the fruit he dropped, and stammered, I never thought Chloe would be so cutesy when she's sick. Sarah burst out laughing at his description. Chloe's expression was thunderous. If looks could kill, they both would have been dead 100 times over. To ease the tension, I laughed. All right, what's so funny? It's obvious you two just don't have anyone to dote on you. Chloe seemed to be soothed by my words. You're right, they're just unloved children. We won't hold it against them. Sarah pretended to be hurt. You have a double standard. I've known you since we were kids too. While they were chatting, I took the fruit they'd brought and went to the kitchen to wash some grapes for Chloe. When I came back out with the fruit, only Chloe was left in the room. I popped a grape into her mouth and asked, where'd they go? Chloe gave me a cool look, pouted, and let out a little huff. I put the bowl down and adopted a serious expression. My lady, what is wrong? Who has made you unhappy? Your humble servant will deal with them at once. Chloe pointed at me and said with a pout, it was you. What? It was I who made you unhappy? I shall atone for my crime with my life. Chloe looked at me and a smile touched her lips, the dimples at the corners of her mouth adding a touch of sweetness to her usually cool expression. She said fondly, idiot. I sighed. Finally, a smile. You're so hard to please, Chloe. I picked up the thermometer. Let's check your temperature again. Then we can go downstairs and get something to eat. I looked at the reading. All right, your temperature's back to normal. Chloe got out of bed. I'm going to take a shower. They're downstairs, you go ahead. She felt sweaty and sticky and incredibly uncomfortable. Okay, I said, reminding her, don't take too long, just a quick rinse. You just got over your fever. The look Chloe gave me was so gentle it was almost tangible. She suddenly thought that maybe being sick wasn't so bad. This felt like the life of an old married couple. When I went downstairs, Dylan and Sarah were debating which movie to watch. When Dylan saw me, he said excitedly, Ethan, my man, we're watching horror movies at your place today. I even bought props. I put my hands on my hips, annoyed. My house is a strictly no weird stuff zone. If we're watching a movie, we're just watching a movie. No messing around with that junk. Just then, Chloe's voice came from behind me. That's right, this is my house. Are you planning a ghost hunt in here? I turned to see Chloe squatting in front of the fridge, rummaging around. I saw her reach for a bottle of ice-cold Coke and immediately ran over to snatch it away. You're still getting over your cold. You can't have anything iced. Here, drink this instead. Chloe slowly stood up, looked down at the carton of chocolate milk in my hand, then took it from me, replying slowly, why aren't you so blind today? I scratched my head, embarrassed. I thought about it and realized she was right. I guess I had been pretty blind in the past. Suddenly, with a click, the lights in the room went out. Chloe and I turned to look. Dylan had put away his props and turned on a single red lamp, smiling at us. We're not hunting ghosts, but we can at least set the mood, right? I had to admit, the whole atmosphere gave off a terrifying vibe. I swallowed hard. Chloe looked at my profile and smiled, then took my hand and led me toward the TV. The movie began, and the eerie soundtrack and dim lighting immediately had everyone on edge. I tried to act tough, but my body betrayed me, tensing up instinctively at every jump scare. Chloe seemed to have anticipated this. She didn't tease me, just squeezed my hand tighter and subtly pulled me closer, letting me lean against her shoulder. The faint, clean scent of her hair had a strange calming effect on my frayed nerves. "Coward," she whispered in my ear, her breath warm and tinged with a smile. "I am not," I retorted stubbornly, my eyes glued to the screen, torn between not wanting to miss a thing and being terrified of what I might see. Just then, a voice that wasn't mine echoed in my head again. This time it was from Sean. "System, the plot has deviated too much." In the original story, after Chloe's 18th birthday, Ethan is supposed to die in a car accident. That's the trigger for her to completely turn dark and become the final boss. But he's alive and well. What's the point of my reincarnation? I went completely rigid. Even the ghost suddenly appearing on screen didn't faze me. Car accident, death, turning dark? The words stabbed into my brain like icy daggers. Host, it is precisely because the plot has deviated that you have an opportunity. As long as you can ensure the key plot point of Ethan's death in a car accident occurs, Chloe will still fall into despair. At that point, you, as the only one who knows the truth and has been silently protecting her, can appear, comfort her, and take Ethan's place in her heart. You will complete the final mission and completely rewrite your life. You mean, you want me to cause that car crash? Sean's thoughts were filled with shock and a faint, almost imperceptible trace of excitement. This is your only chance. I felt like I'd been plunged into an icy abyss, my heart pounding uncontrollably. So, I wasn't just an easily forgotten side character. I was a character who was supposed to be dead in the original story. My very existence was the trigger for Chloe to destroy the world. And Sean, this reincarnated conqueror, was planning to kill me with his own hands to complete his mission. Ethan? What's wrong? Chloe felt me go stiff. She turned her head, concerned, the red light reflecting as two tiny flames in her eyes. You look so pale. Did the movie scare you that much? I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. How could I tell her? Tell her that we were living in a novel, and that I was about to be murdered by someone trying to win her over for a mission? After the movie, everyone started to leave. At the door, Sean said to me with feigned enthusiasm, "Ethan, it's late. Let me give you and Chloe a ride. As long as he gets in my car, I have a million ways to make an accident happen." His cold thoughts sent a chill down my spine. I took a sharp step back, shaking my head forcefully. "No thanks. We're not going anywhere." Chloe, sensing my fear, stepped in front of me, shielding me. She said to Sean in an icy tone. He said no. Sean's face froze, but he didn't give up, turning to Chloe. "Chloe, I was just trying to be nice. My driver is on his way." Chloe cut him off, her tone absolute. Rebuffed, Sean could only leave with Sarah in tow. As I watched them walk away, my tense nerves finally began to relax. Back inside, Chloe closed the door, then turned and cupped my face in her hands, her eyes filled with worry and questions. "Ethan, tell me what happened. You've been acting strange this whole time. Are you afraid of Sean?" Looking into her eyes, so close to mine, I couldn't hide it anymore. All the secrets about travelers, reincarnators, and conquerors, about my own destined death, none of it seemed to matter in that moment. The only thing that mattered was that she couldn't be hurt by Sean, that we couldn't fall into the story's trap. I took a deep breath and, in a trembling voice, told her everything. I told her about my ability to hear thoughts, and what I had just heard from Sean about this book world. "So, we might be living in a novel. You're the future villain who's supposed to destroy the world, and I'm the disposable childhood friend whose death before 18 is supposed to make you turn evil." After I finished, I watched her nervously, waiting for her reaction. Shock? Anger? Or would she think I was crazy? Chloe listened in silence, her expression shifting from astonishment to gravity, and finally, to a cold, bone-chilling rage I had never seen before. But that anger wasn't directed at me. It was for the damned story and the system. "So," she began, each word deliberate, her voice suppressing a storm, "they only get close to me for their missions? And Sean, he wants to kill you to complete his conquest?" I nodded. Chloe suddenly laughed, a smile devoid of any warmth, filled only with endless mockery and resolve. "Destroy the world? If the price is losing you, then what does it matter if this world is destroyed?" She turned and rushed into my room, pulling the bottle of cologne I'd given her last year from my desk drawer. I was stunned. I had no idea what she was doing. She carefully pulled a neatly folded piece of paper from a hidden compartment in the box. "You idiot," she said, her eyes red-rimmed as she unfolded the letter in front of me. "Did you really think this was some generic note from an online seller?" On the paper was her elegant, strong handwriting. It wasn't a printed note at all, but a love letter she had written herself, cleverly disguised in that format. The end of the letter read, "My dearest Ethan, If so-called fate is destined to take you from my side, then I will tear that fate to shreds and burn these chains, until I can write a new ending for you, for us. You are not a side character. You are my entire world. My heart clenched. So, she had known something was wrong all along and had been fighting it in her own way. I had always thought I was a lonely observer, but I never realized she had been fighting right alongside me. Sean wants you to die in a car crash. Chloe's eyes sharpened. Then we'll play his game. The next day, we deliberately let it be known that we were planning to drive to Los Angeles to see an art exhibit. I could hear Sean's system frantically telling him this was his last chance. And sure enough, just before we were about to leave, our driver, Mr. Henderson, told us with a grave expression that it looked like someone had tampered with the car's brakes. We didn't make a scene, we just called the police. When they arrived, Sean was hiding nearby, ready to admire his masterpiece. When the police recovered his fingerprints from the car and took him into custody, the look on his face was one of utter shock and disbelief. How could this happen? This isn't how the story goes. The police? Why are the police here? System, help me. System error. Unable to connect. Plot correction failed. The moment he was put in the police car, I felt the entire world seemed to tremble slightly. The feeling of being an ignored side character that had clung to me for so long instantly vanished. The police officers, our driver, they all looked at me with clear, normal eyes, as if I had always been just a regular person. Because we had worked together to break the most critical plot point, the world had finally broken free from the books, constraints, and become real. A few years later, it was our wedding day. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows of the church, bathing us in color. The pews were filled with our friends and family. Dylan and Sarah were there, and even Mr. Rossi, the pastry chef, and our always smiling driver, Mr. Henderson. Every face held a genuine smile, and in every eye, I could clearly see my own reflection. I couldn't hear anyone's thoughts anymore. The noisy system alerts, the conqueror's schemes, they had all vanished without a trace. All I could hear was my own heartbeat and the breath of the woman standing before me in her wedding dress. Chloe held my hand, her vows simple and heartfelt. Ethan, in that world that was all planned out, you were the only real thing. Now, in this real world that we made for ourselves, you are still my one and only. I slipped the ring onto her finger, looking into the eyes that had once turned red with tears for me and cold with anger for me, now filled only with love and warmth. I smiled back at her. I used to think I was just an insignificant side character in this world. You were the one who showed me I could be the main character of my own life. Chloe, thank you for being the most amazing part of my youth, and for being willing to be the leading lady for the rest of my life. I leaned in and kissed her, and amidst the cheers of our loved ones, I knew with perfect clarity that we had finally gotten our own happy ending, one that no one could ever interfere with, one that belonged only to us.